Good afternoon. I'm Mike Richardson from Whitetail Fly Tying, and this afternoon I'd like to show you one of the products that is a whitetail exclusive is our Whitetail Fly Tying Zonker Jig. We also have its companion, the Whitetail Zonker Cutter, which we explained in our other video about how to load it and use it. Today I'd like to demonstrate cutting the zonker and setting up the zonker hide, so it enables you to make really nice zonkers out of just most any kind of skin that has been tanned. Generally zonkers are made from rabbit hide. Here is a olive with a barred pattern on it, which is quite nice. And then they have solid colors. This happens to be sculpin olive, but they come in bright colors as well, anywhere from yellow, red, purple, any color that can be dyed, they dye them. This happens to be a rust. Skins can be purchased like this. We carry them in our shop, and these are generally average about 12 by 12. Sometimes they're a little bit shorter, sometimes a little bit longer, depending on, obviously, on the rabbit. But generally you get about 12 by 12 or 144 square inches of hide that's usable. It's all usable, but for making the zonker, you have to lay it out. Now, our jig is a simple sliding sled operated jig that you can pull tension on to the skin and get nice clean cuts. It's laid out in 1-inch intervals, which allows you to cut anything from 4 inches to 12 inches long, either cross cut or zonker cut, which is lengthwise with the flow of the hair. It has clamps that enable you to put the hide onto the jig and be able to stretch it to as much as you need to make nice clean cuts. These little pieces of wood, and I'll show you in just a moment, is a way to enable to even put more tension on the skin. Generally, rabbit skins are thin and they stretch a lot, depending on how the tanning process went. This one happens to be a fairly thick one, but you can run across those like this one that are much thinner, so it's going to stretch more. You can make zonks out of anything or crosscuts. Here are zonks made from a woodchuck hide. Generally, a piece of woodchuck hide will give you a 6, 8, 10 really nice zonkers. This happens to be a badger zonk, and of course, obviously, rabbit zonks. So let's lay out one for us. Here's your skin. We'll use this skin here, which is the barred one. And the best thing to do is to work from straight edges, and you don't want to waste any. So find the straightest edge and mark it to a length that will accommodate an even amount. For example, this is not a straight across skin, so you would probably begin by marking it across here. Don't worry about this extra because you can use it as well, and I'll show you why. Now, okay, down at the bottom, we can come down here and we know we have a pretty square edge, not perfectly, obviously. So we look for the useful piece and we can mark it off like this. So now you have a square to work from. Now to square up the edges, and you'd like to move as close as you can to the edge. And then over here, we can take it and move it over to the edge. Now you have a square to work with. This is going to be your zonker material, whatever it is. Now, you can cut it in half if you wish, and zonk it that way, but it's much easier to use if you'll zonk it in quarters. Now, you can, in our shop, we sell whole skins, but we also sell quartered size skins that that would make a number of either crosscuts or zonkers. As a matter of fact, I think it makes it somewhere around 8 to 10 really long ones, or quite a few more shorter ones. This happened to be a fairly large piece of skin, but it's very thin. But it gives you a pretty good example of how much material you get out of a quarter skin. Most times you won't even need to make zonkers, that unless you want to have a lot of them, obviously, but more than a dozen zonks. So a quarter works real nicely there. Or you can have a whole skin and then put it away for another time. So in this case, because we've squared it off, we have about 10 inches to work with. So we can make it about 3 1/4. 3 1/4. So you're going to get 3 pieces of skin to zonk, and that works perfectly with your jig because it will do a full 4 inch. The reason I like for you to try this way is that you can learn to really get tension on a piece that's about this general size. Now, as far as tools, your zonker, your zonker cutter, and you can set that at any interval you want. This is set at 1/4 inch. We're going to do a 1/4 inch zonk today. You can use all the different spacers, the nylon spacers that come with this, and you can make 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, up to 1 inch zonkers by moving these nylon spacers around in here. It's quite easy. We have a video on this. It'll show you exactly how to set it up. Now, let's go ahead and cut a zonker. Now, I've got this set up here for simplicity reasons. We have set this up, ready to zonk, but first of all, let's stretch a skin on here so that you can see how that works. Here's our piece of skin, much longer than we need, but that's okay. I've marked it here so that we can have, we're going to set this on here. Then you have these little pieces of wood, like I said. You can put up on the stationary side, you can put this right at the mark that you wish to start your zonker, like that. And you can put that one there. Then come back to the sled size. It's set to whatever you happen to want to make, the length that you want to make. This one happens to be a little over 8 inches. See how it stretches? Look at that skin, it really stretches, but we haven't really locked it down. So it's very important that the skin is nice and snug and stretched. So we can take this guy and put him here. Put your little clamp on there. Now you can really put some English on this by taking this skin and pulling it tightly. Just like that. Put this guy across the top. Also, sometimes it helps to take this and just roll the skin like that. You're not going to hurt this. And put your clamps on. Now you have a skin that's nice and tight. It's going to give some because remember that these skins are thin and they're going to give a little bit when you're cut. But if your blades are sharp and you're not going to put that much pressure on it to cut these. You don't want to press them so much because the harder you press, no matter how tight you get, this thing is still going, this piece of skin is still going to stretch. Okay, let's cut one real quickly here. Now, you've stretched your hide, and it's in here pretty snugly, and you could start right over here at the edge, and on this side of the sled, you can put it right on the edge, and start up here onto the top of your sled, and press down. This is how you have to hold your cutter. These fenders on the side are at an angle. That's the angle you're going to cut. So what you're going to do is take this and give it pressure, and slowly come through here. And there's your zonks. Just like that. Now, oh yeah, we got a little bit left here. Okay, just bring your cutter over here, set it there. And the odd piece on the end, obviously, is going to fall short. But then you still have this one that you can trim up, and I'll show you how to do that too. You can take your scissors, if it's a little bit out of line right here, you can take your scissors and trim that zonk square. Or take all this. This happens to be just part of the tanning process here. So don't throw away these ends because you'll wind up using them. I promise you. And if it's a little thick, a little too wide, see how you can just trim it with your fly tying scissors? Not your best scissors, but that you use for your flies, but your work scissors. Look at that. See how nice and straight you can cut that? Now, we have zonkers. Now, how you get them out of here? What you're going to do is take your razor blade. Now, sometimes I have this is a number 7 scalpel, and you can buy these online with the blades, and they're wonderful to have. And if you're going to do a lot of different skins, these are real nice to use because they cut very fast and they cut very accurately. But most of us are going to have razor blades, and this works just fine. So the reason I put those marks down here, that's where I'm going to cut off my zonk, and I'm just going to cut it off like this. Just like this. And then if in between the zonks, you can cut just like that. Be careful, always be careful. And you can always take your scissors and even up the ends of your zonkers by just taking these and snipping the ends like that. And here you have a nice 1/4-inch zonker. You can see here I've cut some of these are 1/4-inch. It's exactly the same way as this. You can leave them attached at one end if you wish, or you can just get you a little plastic bag and put your zonkers in here. These particular zonkers are 1/8 inch, so you can see how the 1/8 inch looks when you get finished. This is a 1/4, and this is an 1/8. Very nice zonkers. They don't have to be that long. You can leave them attached at both ends and fold them up, put them in your package, and they're ready to go. Or you can break them apart, whatever you wish to do. Now, remember all this stuff that came from the end? That's going to make more zonkers. Take these off. These are the ends of this zonker, and you got this end. You can cut this off square, and you can use those other pieces to zonk, or keep these, and it makes great dubbing. So there is no waste. Someday I'll do a video on how to make really fast dubbing, and we'll talk about that. But don't throw that away. Also, these zonkers, from one skin, you can get a lot of zonkers, because here's some of that we didn't even use yet. I cut this end off because it was so irregular, but I'm going to make cross cuts out of this. I'm going to put it in the jig this way and make cross cuts. So that's our whitetail zonker jig and the cutter, and that's the way you would want to zonk just about any critter that you wanted to use in your fly tying.